He inherited $2 million on a Tuesday morning, and by Thursday, he could not sleep. Not because he was scared of losing it, because for the first time in his life, he had no idea who he actually was. That sounds strange until you have lived it. Most people spend their whole lives believing that money is the finish line. Get enough of it and everything else sorts itself out. Confidence sorts itself out. Peace sorts itself out. Even love sorts itself out. So when the money actually shows up, fast and all at once, something should click into place. Instead, for a huge number of people, everything falls apart. There is a term for this, though most people have never heard it: sudden wealth syndrome. It shows up in lottery winners, in people who sell a company for a fortune, in athletes who sign their first massive contract, in anyone who inherits a pile of money they did not slowly build themselves. And the pattern is almost identical every single time. First comes euphoria, then comes a strange, heavy guilt, then comes isolation, then, for a shocking number of people, comes ruin. Here is why that happens, and it starts with a simple fact about the human brain. Your identity is built slowly through years of small decisions, small wins, small failures. You learn who you are by watching yourself struggle and adapt. A person who works a normal job for 15 years builds an identity around competence, patience, and earned trust. That identity is the thing that actually makes someone feel secure, not the number in their bank account. So when a windfall hits, the money changes overnight, but the identity underneath it does not. The result is a person standing in a completely new life, wearing an old, mismatched sense of self. That mismatch is where the unraveling begins. Picture a man who worked in a warehouse for 20 years. He wins $40 million in a lottery. His first instinct is not spreadsheets or investment advisors. It is generosity, because deep down, he still sees himself as the guy from the warehouse who always helped his coworkers. So he starts giving: a house for his sister, a truck for his cousin, a loan, which is really a gift, to an old friend who is struggling. Within a year, 40 people believe they have a claim on his money, and he cannot say no to any of them, because saying no would mean admitting that the money changed who he is. And admitting that terrifies him more than losing the money does. This is the part almost nobody talks about. Sudden money does not just test your financial discipline, it tests your entire social world. Every relationship you have was built under old financial rules. Your friend who always picked up the tab less often than you did. Your sibling who borrowed $20 here and there. Your parents who sacrificed so you could have opportunities they never had. The moment your income changes dramatically, every single one of those relationships needs to be renegotiated, and almost nobody knows how to do that gracefully. So the money does not just sit in an account, it becomes a constant, exhausting negotiation with every person who has ever known you. And here's the part that explains why so many lottery winners and athletes end up broke within a few years. It is not because they are careless. It is because they are trying to buy back the one thing money cannot actually purchase, which is a stable identity. A new car does not just feel like transportation, it feels like proof that the person is now someone different, someone who made it. A bigger house does not just feel like more space, it feels like evidence to silence the voice in their head that whispers, "You do not actually deserve this." Every purchase becomes an attempt to answer a question that spending can never actually answer. Who am I now that everything has changed? That is exactly why financial advisors who work with sudden wealth clients say the first 6 months matter more than the next 20 years combined. Not because of interest rates or investment returns, but because that window is when the person either builds a new, honest identity around the money or spends the rest of their life running from the discomfort of having it. The advice that actually works is almost boring. Wait. Do not make any major decisions for the first several months. Talk to a professional before you talk to your family about numbers. Keep your daily routine exactly the same for as long as you can, because the routine is the last thread connecting the old, stable identity to the new, disorienting one. And cutting that thread too fast is what causes people to spiral. There is also a quieter, sadder version of this story that happens to families instead of individuals. A parent works themselves to exhaustion so their children never have to struggle the way they did. But by removing the struggle, they accidentally remove the exact process that builds identity, patience, and resilience in the first place. So the child grows up financially comfortable, but psychologically unanchored, chasing a sense of self that never got the chance to form the normal way. This is not a story about spoiled kids. It is a story about how identity and struggle are quietly wired together, and how skipping one can quietly damage the other. So what actually helps? The people who handle sudden wealth well almost always do one specific thing early. They separate the money from their sense of worth on purpose, out loud, often with a therapist or a trusted advisor. They say clearly, to themselves and to others, "This money does not make me smarter, better, or more important than I was last year." It sounds simple, almost too simple to matter, but that one sentence repeated and genuinely believed is the difference between someone who uses money as a tool and someone who lets money quietly become their entire identity. Because in the end, money was never actually the finish line. It was never going to sort out who you are, what you believe, or what you are worth. All it can ever do is amplify whoever you already were before it arrived. If you were generous before, you become dangerously generous. If you were anxious before, you become anxiously wealthy. If you never learn to sit still with yourself, all the money in the world will not teach you now. The real fortune was never the number in the account. It was the identity strong enough to hold it without breaking.